Today, we're looking at the relationship between unit rates and the slope of proportional relationships. Let's look at number 1. Jessica bought 10 bows for $15. What was the rate of the cost per bow? Okay, that is a really strange way to ask what is the cost per bow, but that's okay. We know that's what they're asking. They want to know the cost per bow. We know that it was $15 and there were 10 bows. So we could find this just by dividing our cost by our bows, right? Let's go ahead and do that really quick. So I have $15 divided by 10. That means that it's $1.50 per bow. We're asked now to graph that. It's a proportional relationship because 0 bows cost $0, right? I'm going to make a table of points over here. So we know 0 bows cost $0. 1 bow would cost $1.50. What about 2 bows? Well, let's see. What I need to do is multiply 2 times $1.50, and that's going to be $3. What about 3 bows? I would multiply 3 times $1.50, and that would be $4.50. I maybe don't want to graph every single point that I possibly could, so let me get a little bit bigger. How about 10 bows? That would be 10 times $1.50, and that would be $15. That's the value we were given, isn't it? We were initially told that 10 bows cost $15. It's good to see that check out in our table. Okay, let's graph these points. 0 bows cost $0. 1 bow costs $1.50. And we're going to find $1.50 here. I notice that my y-axis is counting by 2s, so I really go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? Maybe it's helpful to label like that. So then I know that $1.50 would be halfway between 1 and 2. So that's 1 bow costs $1.50. 2 bows costs $3. 3 bows costs $4.50, and then I'm going to skip over to 10 bows. And 10 bows costs $15. Excellent. I can now draw a line through my points here. Let's see. There we go. And this is a proportional linear relationship. It is proportional because it goes through the origin. It goes through 0, 0. So here's where I see the origin on my graph, and here's where I see the origin in my table. So that makes it proportional. Another important thing that makes it proportional is that my ratio of y to x is going to be constant for every value of this line. Let's take a look at that. So for example, I have 1 bow costs $1.50, right? So $1.50 divided by 1 is $1.50. I have that 2 bows cost $3. 3 divided by 2 is $1.50. I have 4 bows cost $3. 3 bows cost $4.50. Well, $4.50 divided by 3 is $1.50. This is called my constant of proportionality. It's my y values divided by my x values for any point, right? And in this case, what my constant of proportionality is telling me is the cost of 1 bow. So the cost of 1 bow has actually become the slope of my line. My unit rate is my slope for proportional relationships. So that right there is my big idea. The unit rate is the slope for any proportional relationship. Let's look at another example. In this example, an electrician charges $225 for 9 hours of work. And we want to know the cost per hour. So that's going to be our dollars per hour. Okay, so we have 225 divided by 9. That works out to $25. So this electrician is charging $25 per hour. Let's graph that proportional relationship. First of all, I don't actually need to calculate the slope of my line, do I? I already know what my slope is going to be. The slope of my line is going to be 25. And for any value that's on my graph, the y-coordinate divided by the x-coordinate is going to equal 25. Let's take a look at that. So first of all, I always want to encourage you to start with 0. 0 times 25 is 0, so 0 hours of work should cost $0, right? If the electrician doesn't come to your house, it doesn't cost anything. Okay, 1 hour of work, well, that's going to be 1 times 25. That's 25. 2 hours of work is going to be 50. 3 hours of work is going to be 75. And I'm just multiplying by 25 here, right? That really should be enough to graph a line here. Let's do it. So 0, 0, 1, 25. Oh, where is 25 on here? Let's see, that's counting by 50s. 50, 100, 150. So this must be 25. This must be 75. Let's label our axis. It's easier if you do that. There we go. Okay, 0, 0, 1, 25, 2, 50, 3, 75, and 4, 100. Fantastic. All right, let's draw a line through these. There we go. And if we wanted to, we could confirm 25 over 1 equals 25. 50 over 2 equals 25. 75 over 3 equals 25. 100 over 4 equals 25. So our constant of proportionality, K, which is our unit rate here, that's the slope of our line for this proportional relationship. $25 an hour, 25 is the slope of our line. So now I'm going to zoom out a little bit and look at this from a bigger perspective. Let's go ahead and write some equations of these lines. This line is going to be y equals $1.50x. And this line is going to be y equals 25x. In both cases, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the origin because that is what tells me this is definitely a proportional relationship. And I also want to highlight my slope. So my slope is right there. That tells me how steep my line is. It's also called my constant of proportionality, and it is my unit rate. Now, we were basically given the unit rate and then told to create a graph. But what if we wanted to use the graph to determine the unit rate? How would we do that? We would just look at an ordered pair on the graph, and we would divide y by x. So for example, in this one, if I had a graph and I wanted to find the slope and I knew it was a proportional relationship, I might pick this point right here, 2, 3. The slope of a proportional relationship is equal to y over x. So that would be 3 over 2. And 3 divided by 2 is $1.50. Okay, what if I wanted to find the slope of this one? It is also a proportional relationship. It goes through the origin. So to find the slope, I just want to pick a pretty point. Now I haven't labeled these points here, but this one looks very pretty to me. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and label them. 125, 250, 375, and then 4, 100. I'm going to use that last one right here, 4, 100. So y over x would be 100 over 4. We already showed earlier that that was 25, right? So you can use a graph to determine your slope as well. When it's proportional, you just divide the y coordinate by the x coordinate, and that gives you the slope of the line. So let's review our steps. So if our goal is to graph a proportional relationship, our first step was to determine our unit rate. And that was the same as determining our slope, right? Then we created a table of points. And I always want you to include 0, 0. And then we graphed our points. And that was it. That was how we graphed proportional relationships. Now let's talk about to find the slope from a graph. So if I have the graph and I want to find the slope, if I know my relationship is proportional, then I can just divide y by x. But first I want you to do something. Check whether it is proportional. If it's proportional, it goes through the origin, right? And if it does, then we can just divide y by x. So then we would pick a point and then divide y by x. But it is critically important to know that this only works for proportional relationships. For non-proportional relationships, we have to follow a different procedure. So first, you must determine if it is proportional. If it is, just pick any old point and divide the y value by the x value, and that will give you the slope. So those are the two skills we worked on here: graphing proportional relationships and finding the slope of proportional relationships. Now it's time to practice.